All right, I have a very exciting conversation today with Kahn, Samantha Bennett, and Steve Cunningham. This is really cool to just have a chance to sit around and talk to other entrepreneurs, talk to other business owners who are in the trenches doing what you're doing, and most likely they've already conquered challenges that you're facing, or they're going through the same challenges that you're going through. And it's good to just pick each other's brains, be here to support one another. And this is just a little taste of introducing you to some entrepreneurs. All right. So, just to kick it off, I have a few questions I'm going to be tackling in today's episode. We're going to talk about what did it take to build your business from six figures to seven figures. What did that take? Uh, and you can also share what it took to go from zero to six figures. We're going to talk about the challenges. What was the worst challenge you went through, or the biggest, most difficult challenge you went through. And we'll be talking about things like what are you going through now? What's working now, especially pivoting with, some people are still trying to get their bearings from the pandemic and how that has affected your business. So, to start things off, Steve Cunningham, let me start with you. Just to introduce Steve real quick, Steve is the president of several companies. Actually, I love how you were a lawyer for a week. So you'll have to tell us more about that. But he's on a mission to end emotional isolation. So he started WeTree, which is the world's first social support network platform. Steve is a technology entrepreneur. He left Toronto, Canada to be a part of the downtown San Antonio tech ecosystem. And that's where he met WeTree co-founder Lorenzo Gomez. But Steve also does have two other companies, which I checked out and signed up for Read It For Me, which I love. It's a business book summary. It's a service for entrepreneurs and executives, so you can read a ton of books in a fraction of the time. And then he also owns Grow It For Me, which is the #1 white label marketing system for coaches, consultants, B2B solopreneurs. So I love this. You have your hands in quite a number of business ventures. So tell us, let's start with this. Tell us what made you want to start, each of these ventures. You can pick one if you like, or answer all three.
Mostly by accident on all three times. So I'll start off with the lawyer for 1 week bit because they all kind of thread together. So I was a lawyer for exactly 1 week. The the short version of that story is my father wanted me to be a professional, and nobody in his family had ever gone to college or university, so it was a big thing for somebody in the family to be a professional. Between my second and third year of law school, I got to shadow the senior partner around for a summer and carry his briefcase and get him coffee and all that fun stuff. And I kind of fast forwarded my life to 25 years later to see if like this was going to be my life, would I be fulfilled? And I decided that was not going to be for me. And so I begged and pleaded my dad, who at the time owned a small signage company, to let me come work for him. And that was kind of like the last thing that he wanted for me, was to work in a signage company. Um, but I convinced him to let me do it. So in his condition was that I finished law school, I got called to the bar, and if I still wanted to do it, I could join the business. So um, the firm that I was working with at the time asked me to stick around for a week to finish up a file that I was working on. So I thought that would be the nice thing to do. And also, I'll have a story to tell for the rest of my life. I was a lawyer for exactly 1 week. So I got into that business, and it was around the time when social media was starting to become a thing for business. And because I had about 3,000 Twitter followers at the time, because I was just tinkering around with it, that qualified me to be an expert in social media. So I got to go fly around and do keynote speeches and present to groups of CEOs. And that got me a lot of meetings with people, but nobody wanted to sign a check. And so invariably, I would go into these meetings and I would see a bunch of business books on their shelf or on their desk. And because I was terrified of being, my side story is my dad made me the president of this company. Like pretty much as soon as I joined, which is not a very good decision. So I went to the store and I bought as many business books as I could. And as I was reading them, I summarized them just like I did for all the stuff that I was learning in law school, because law school is 3 years of reading hundreds of pages of stuff at night and furiously scribbling notes so that the next day you're not embarrassed by the teacher in front of all your new law school friends. So I would invariably ask these VPs of marketing and business owners, what did you think about this book, or what did you think about that book? Because I had recently read it, and they would sheepishly admit finally that they had not read that book. Somebody had given it to them as a present, or a boss had asked them to read it. So I started offering people my notes from the books that I was reading, which were basically summaries of books. And one thing led to another. I did that many times, and people started asking us how they could pay us, because they didn't want us to stop doing it, because they knew that if we didn't get customers, we would stop doing it. And so that was how Read It For Me was born. It was kind of an accident. And fast forwarding through the rest of the businesses that I've created along the way, it's always just been noticing a problem that people have and trying to come up with a way to solve that problem. And it's been a very non-linear path along the way. So I've never created anything with a predetermined, like I'm going to start a business in this area because XYZ. It's always just been noticing patterns and problems that people have, and trying to do my best to solve them.
And where are you at with growth on Read It For Me?
So we got customers from all around the world, ranging from solopreneurs all the way to Fortune
Mhm.
50 companies and everywhere in between. We do a lot of workshop type work with the larger companies as well. So um, growing consistently over time. So very happy with where we're at.
Nice. What I love about your story, because people ask all the time, they want this big, huge idea that sounds epic, and you just took a very small observation, or an observation of a seemingly small problem of a lot of books on the shelf that you don't really have time to read, and that turned into quite an impressive business. And then you're white labeling it. So yeah, it's really pretty exciting that you're scaling it. I love that. I love that. Rich, how about yourself? What you have an ad fraud company, and
Correct.
that's very cool because there's not a lot of agencies out there who are looking out for the customer trying to do pay-per-click ads and other types of ads. What gave you the idea to start your ad fraud company?
Well, I have a marketing agency that I started with my wife back in 2003. And as we started to grow it and started to market, I started noticing odd data coming across, click logs and stuff like that. And I figured, you know what? I've come across fraud before. Let me just go out and license a fraud technology, bolt it on, and just call it a day.
Right.
And in 2005, when I looked, there wasn't any fraud detection companies out in the marketplace. So I've been a developer since age 9. I figured might as well just put it together myself. Went ahead, built it myself, and it worked great until it didn't. So I continued to have to put a lot of time and effort into it. And after about 10 years of being successful with it, solving my problem on my network, I looked up and realized that there was other companies in the marketplace that were producing a fraud solution and selling it. So out of curiosity, I figured, let me test our solution against, 4 or 5 of the competitors in the marketplace and see how it vets out. And we had significantly better results in every metric that we can test. So we figured it made sense for us to go out and start up another company selling this as a licensable product. And so it became out of a need for us. And now we're solving those problems for the needs of companies similar to us.
Wow. And your company's Anura.
And
So
Nora,
an ad fraud solution designed to improve campaign performance. So it accurately exposes bots, malware, human fraud. And I also want to tell our audience a little bit more about your track record of success operating businesses that made the Inc. 5000 list for 5 years in a row. That's really impressive. And you achieved the Ernst& Young Entrepreneur of the Year award for technology and operating one of the fastest growing advertising and marketing companies in the U.S. Very exciting. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about your experience and kind of what your challenges were along the way to hitting those achievements. That's awesome. So you solved your own problem, and I think a lot of our viewers don't even realize that is a problem. It is a major problem, and that's really awesome. They can come to you to be able to solve that. Samantha, what led you? Now, Samantha is originally from Chicago, right? You
Yeah.
are a writer. You're a lot of things: writer, speaker, actor, teacher, creativity and productivity specialist, and the author of the best-selling book "Get It Done: From Procrastination to Creative Genius in 15 Minutes a Day." Um, wow, I'd love to be a genius in 15 minutes a day.
It's possible.
Yes, and you got Seth Godin's endorsement. How cool is that? An instant classic, he said, of your book,
I'm
Essential
so
Reading.
not over it.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. And you have another bestseller, Start Right Where You Are: How Little Changes Can Make a Big Difference for Overwhelmed Procrastinators and Frustrated Overachievers and Recovering Perfectionists. So that's, I think I fit all three buckets. So, Samantha, what led you to start your business as a creativity and productivity expert?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, completely inadvertent, not the plan at all. I spent most of my life working as an actor. I was the kid who went to theater camp. I went to school for theater. I left Northwestern University because I got offered a job at the Second City Theater in Chicago, which seemed like a lot more fun, and it was. And and I always had one of those acting careers that went well enough that you didn't want to give up on it, but not so well as to be able to support a person. So in both Chicago and then later in Los Angeles, it just meant that my life was this nonstop chaos of like jobs and gigs and part-time and full-time and rehearsals and auditions and shows and producing and directing and running around in classes and trying to make everything happen all at once. And it was creatively very satisfying and financially disastrous. And one of the many sort of bazillion part-time gigs I had was I started teaching this class called Get It Done, like in a church basement in Van Nuys for like 11 people.
Uh-huh.
I might have charged them $75 and felt really weird about it, and because I just got really interested in this question of how do creative people make decisions? How do entrepreneurs make decisions?
Yeah.
Right? When there's no right way, right? There's no the way to succeed. How do you know what to do? Like, should I have a podcast? Should I run Facebook ads? Should I stand on the street corner with a sandwich board? Like, what do I do? And especially for artists and creatives, when that answer sort of has to come from your soul, it has to come as an expression of who you are and what you do in a really meaningful way. It's a really interesting, it's an interesting, juicy topic. So I realized I was pretty good at getting projects done, and a lot of my friends struggled because highly creative people have a grillion ideas all the time. They love nuance and subtlety, and like can overcomplicate a paper bag. And so it's just a lot of worksheets and questions and inquiries and little almost games and meditations and things to help highly creative people get clarity on what it is they want to do and then how to actually execute it. And so it was just one of a lot of things I was doing. And then I had a friend who said, like, wait, so you have this class that you love and that sells out all the time and you love to teach it and I love to take it and you're not doing this full time because, and I was like, oh, that is such a good question.
Things that just seem to come easy to you, right? That you had quick success with.
Yeah, I did. Yes.
Yeah. So that was the beginning and the birthing of each of your businesses. Tell me a little bit more about now. All right, let's fast forward to what do you think were the key tactics that moved your business from 0 to 6 figures, or if you'd like to answer, what was the key tactic that went from 6 figures to 7 figures? So whether it's a tactic or a strategy, share some of your insights with our audience. So, Steve, can we start with you?
Sure. Yeah, I wasn't ready for this question, so I'm going to do my best to think of the one tactic that got us there. One of the things that we noticed as we were developing our business was there's two ways you can run an information business, which is basically what we have. One is you can do it on a recurring revenue basis, and the other one is you can do it on a one-time payment basis. And we had been doing it on a recurring revenue basis for basically since we had started the company. But I noticed a lot of people on the internet were making a lot of money by charging one-time payments for products. And so what I designed an experiment where we ran a promotion for a lifetime membership to our service to individuals, so the B2C arm of what we were doing. And we ran the experiment. We generated a lot of revenue, which we expected because you're pulling forward all of the cash flow from the future. But the surprising thing to us is we started to run an analysis of our customer lifetime value for the people that were on recurring revenue plans. And then I compared that to what we generated by selling a lifetime membership, and then compared what our customer lifetime value would have to have been in order to make up for the difference in the conversion rate from the lifetime membership. And it ended up being something like 11 and a half years. And there is no recurring revenue company on the planet, I think maybe except for Netflix, that has a customer lifetime value anywhere close to that. It's like Netflix, I forget the exact numbers, something like 10 years or so for Netflix projected. And then like the next best one is like 3 years. And so for us, it was a huge win, obviously from a cash flow perspective. The downside of that is if you're trying to build a company to sell it, it's always on a multiple of recurring revenue. So it eats away at your enterprise value. But the idea that we decided to move forward with was that as long as we have something at the end of the rainbow that is a recurring revenue business, that's the main reason why, or it's the thing that we're building to sell eventually, that from a cash flow basis and an actual revenue basis, the lifetime membership always seems to win. So which goes against everything that you would learn in how to run a business. So that's one of kind of the meta lessons that I've learned, is to trust your gut to run experiments. Don't trust your gut on everything, but trust your gut to design experiments that you can run, and then look at the data and then make, a common sense decision about how to move forward. So that was the one thing that has made the most difference for us as a mindset, and also as a specific tactic.
Yes, love it, love it. Really, you drill down into the revenue model and testing it out. I love that. So Samantha, how about yourself? What do you think moved the needle the most when it comes to just boosting your sales revenue?
Yeah, I mean the number one thing that boosted my revenue was offering a higher end program.
Mm-hmm.
I had been offering very low cost or mid-level programs for a long time, and ignoring the fact that there was a percentage of people on my list who really loved what I was doing, but they didn't want a $500 course. They weren't interested in the 6-week version. They wanted something more intensive and expensive and personal. And so when I started offering those higher end things, that's what made a real difference in the bottom line. The thing that I think made a real difference in the business is, I have a little habit, like, you'll hear a lot of stories, in the entrepreneurial world, like, oh, it's impossible to find good talent. It's impossible to find good help. Oh my God, my third VA just quit in a month. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I just have a way of going, like, that's not my story. That may be true for you, but that's not my story. And I've had great success hiring people who, like Kip Tindell says in Uncontainable, which is, I do read those business books. So Kip Tindell, who created the Container Store, wrote a book called Uncontainable, which is very good, well worth the read. And he talks about hiring people who are 3 in 1, which is people who are so talented and so gifted, it's like hiring 3 people. And so my policy is I just hire geniuses, and I basically let them do whatever they want, and I pay them whatever they want, and I tell them all the time how wonderful they are.
I love that.
Everyone leaves eventually, but my people tend to stay a pretty long time, which is great.
Yes, yeah. I love that. And I'm just curious to what you shared a little bit ago, that you started offering higher end programs. Did you change your audience, or did you keep the same audience but just offer higher end programs?
I kept the same audience and offered higher end programs. So I was still working with highly creative people, but then, so there were people who just wanted to zhuzh up their lives a little bit and feel more creative. There were people who had an actual project that they wanted to get done. And then I started offering things for people who wanted to make money from their creativity. So a little bit about creative entrepreneurship.
Yes. That's awesome, because that's going to help. I mean, a lot of people double their revenue, just like that, with one decision, one change. If you want to double your revenue, you don't even have to change your audience. You just create a program that costs twice as much.
Well, or 10 times as much. I mean,
10 times as much. Yes.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, they're better clients. They want it more. They show up because, you've got their attention. A $36 course, I'll get to it. Maybe I won't. But if you're charging somebody, $20,000, you have their attention.
Yes. Yes. Great takeaways, especially for other solo practitioners. And I'm assuming when you started out, you were solo. So
100%.
Well, yeah, people are trying to. I think the tendency is trying to find the cheapest labor.
No.
And to your point, you are not afraid to invest in your business by investing in higher talent.
Investing in my people. I mean, I have somebody who started out as a sort of assistant, and I've over the years, now I have her teaching some classes. I'm like, you're an expert in these things. Why don't you teach? And she was like, do what? And so she gets to grow as a person and as an entrepreneur herself.
Yes, love that. So, Rich, what about yourself? When it came to your digital marketing agency, your ad fraud service, what was the inflection point that just boosted your business to the next level?
We've hit multiple inflection points over the lifespan. This company's been around 5 years as a product. We launched it in April of 2017. And, the first stage was, okay, we know we have a better product. We launched it. Now what? So I sat down there and I looked at all the people that I knew over the years, because I've been in the space now 29 years of digital marketing. So I sat down, looked at my LinkedIn list of thousands of people, went down and one by one, found people that I knew, not just internet and LinkedIn connections, but people that I knew and had relationships with, and just started reaching out to them as a starting point to get the thing off the ground. Mm-hmm. As soon as we got our first couple of clients and things started to roll, the next phase was to start hiring people to start taking over because I obviously can't continue doing it myself. What we struggled with probably over the last 2 years is finding a leader in sales. I literally don't have the time. Obviously, when you're running a company, you've got 1,000 different things you got to be doing, and you're trying to promote the brand. You're trying to, be on different boards. So you're pulled in a lot of different directions, and you can't really dedicate the time needed to selling. And you have to find that VP of sales early on. And we had somebody originally, wasn't the right candidate for us. Great guy, just wasn't the right person for us. A couple months ago, we found the right person, and it's amazing. He's only been in the company 4 or 5 months. Last month, he doubled our best month yet. And so we're just starting to see that traction. And it looks like this month's already ahead of that last month. So I guess for me, and probably the biggest phase for this company is finding the right person to do the tasks that need to be focused on, like VP of sales, VP of marketing, different positions that are key positions in the company. As entrepreneurs, we can do it ourselves. We know how to do every aspect of our business. We can run and we can do it. However, we can't do it all, Right. And you have to find the right people that you can put into a position. They can learn fast, train them up fast, and then get them focusing on that aspect of a business. Like, I've already had good leaders in the product that taken over the product that I originally developed myself years ago, decades ago. So that I found early on, which was great, because then I don't have to focus on product. I can focus on selling. And then, of course, you can only spend so much time focusing on selling. So our biggest inflection, I think, for the company up to this point is finding the right people at the right stage of the company to take over the tasks that you don't really have the time to dedicate to it.
So now, are you the main one who is going out trying to find that top talent, or are you working with a search firm? What are you doing to find the top talent?
Well, we have a little problem in that area. So far, it's my wife and I that run the company. We've been together in business for the last 19 years. So it's the two of us that will piggyback off each other trying to find talent. And I hate to say it, but we're old school. We like people working in the office.
Yeah.
That's one problem, right? The second problem is we're in Middletown, Delaware. So
Ah,
we don't have great large markets of people to pull from. It's not like we're in a major
yeah.
city like like in Austin, Texas, or Silicon Valley or something like that. So it's a challenging point. There's great people. It just takes time. It takes longer to find those people. So we don't use recruiting companies. We've used them before in the past with little to no success. And again, we've only used one or two companies like that in the past. So it's been for us. LinkedIn has been a phenomenal resource for identifying new talent. So we'll get a position, we'll post it up on their system, and a combination of their reach plus the reach that I have as an individual. I'm something like 17,000 people on LinkedIn, so it's a decent sized, group, all within my space. So when I post something, I get a lot of interactivity on it, so I can generally find the right people. And right now, we're looking for a VP of marketing to take over the position that my wife and I have been struggling with because we don't have the time to put it to it. So,
So if anybody's listening,
yeah,
near
we're
the Milton,
probably,
Delaware area, and you're a VP of marketing candidate, reach out to Rich. Well, I have to give you a little bit of pushback on something that you said when you said,
yep.
our problem now is that we're old school. We like people to work here in the office. I just want to say, hey, I think that's not a problem. I think that's an asset. I always found it easier to develop, retain, and just create that culture when you are old school, face to face, working side by side, creating a relationship, a quick water cooler conversation or grab a lunch and pouring like bits of time into people that it's not always just by the computer. I think I've done both, just in my experience. I just found certainly there is advantages to working with people remote, but when it comes to developing talent and building that relationship and culture, I don't see anything else in my experience that works better than working in person.
You know what? When we were forced to work from home with COVID, it was definitely a culture shock, and I hated it. If I needed to get somebody on the phone I have a quick idea, normally I'd walk over to their desk and say, "Hey," and we'd have a conversation. Grab somebody else, go to the conference room, hash out the idea, and then
Right.
everybody goes and executes. And then it would be like trying to get somebody on the phone. It's difficult because there's a lot of distractions, and it takes the right individual and the right company structure to really manage remote employees the right way. I'm always the kind I'd rather just be I'm old school, face to face, and that's just how I am. Don't know if I'll ever change, but for better or worse, that's what I enjoy it. I mean, I love walking over somebody's office after I just heard they got off of a great call and hash it out how to go.
Yeah,
What to do. Let's start with the team. Like you miss all that. Like
you do.
when we were working remote, I'll say I was working on a deal. I just closed a major company. I hung up the phone. I'm like, there's no one around to talk to. Like, there's no one to celebrate with. I'm like, I'm by myself. I'm like, I hate this. So
Hey, hey, kitty cat. Hey, kitties. Guess what I did?
That's right.
as soon as we got the opportunity, we were actually Delaware was a quick state. I think we were back. COVID hit, let's say in March. I think by June we were back in the office,
Wow.
and we brought everyone back to the office. We had, we followed protocol and stuff like that. But
Right.
and we were actually had employees saying, "Hey, when can we come back to the office?" Because they were missing that environment.
Yes. It's such a big, I think it's such a big value. I mean, I remember when I had sales team, working out of my office in Delaware County, we would have a team night out, and after our sales meeting, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, the routine was once a week we'd be at a restaurant just hanging out. And I really believe it was being able to, pour into people personally like that, where one of the guys I hired back in 1993 is still a good friend, and we're still in each other's lives, and I don't think that would ever happen, even though I haven't worked with them in 25 years, because of that face to face. And then I see my son; he's doing like these virtual office parties with his company, and I'm like, how do you have a virtual office party? So, anyway, it's so different. Moving on, I think this is great stuff. I mean, there's so much to take away from learning from each of your experience. Sam, you want to share something?
I just want to underline something Rich said, because I think it's so important and easily missed, because I I hear this from people who haven't started yet, right? They're in the zero revenue stage, but they have an idea for a business, they have a passion, or maybe they've started a little bit, but it's not cohering. And to remember that your relationships are everything. Mm-hmm. Everything comes to us through other people. Money comes to us through other people. Love comes to us through other people. Opportunities come to us through other people. And so everybody's like, oh my God, I don't know where to start. Do I need a website? Do I need a logo? No, you need to pick up the phone, and the actual phone, make an actual phone call with an actual phone and talk to an actual person in real time. It's old, talking about old school. I know it's an old technology, but it still works. Or ping them, or on, however you like to talk to people, whatever, message them, whatever. But just reach out to the people that you vibe with, that you like. Don't do it to the people you don't like. Don't do it with the people that frighten you. Just do it where you see their name and you're like, oh, that person's so great. Great. Ping them and say, hey, hey, how are you? And then they'll say, great, how are you? You vibe for a minute. And then you say, look, I've got this new project. I would love your thoughts on it. And they say, oh, sure. Everybody loves to be asked for advice. So like, sure. And you say, well, I see this problem in the marketplace. I'd like to, or I have this opportunity, or I have this skill set. I'm looking to do something like this. And then the conversation goes where it goes. And they may say, sounds great. Good luck. Bye. Great. Moving on. They may say, oh my God, are you available? My sister needs this exact thing right now. They may say, oh, you should double your prices. Who knows what they'll say, but you must, but it'll give you practice talking about the problem you solve and how you do it. And it'll get the word out that this is what you do. And, that's how businesses grow, especially at the beginning, is just reach out to the people that you already have relationships with, not your family and friends. Your family and friends are not your ideal client. Don't talk they don't even care about what you're doing. Don't even talk to them about it. But other people that you have good relationships with, no matter how far-fetched it seems.
That's really great advice. It's a great reminder, because people can get so wrapped up in it must be complicated. It must be some shiny AI tech product that's going to do it. And to what you said, Rich, you picked up the phone, you went through your LinkedIn and did one-on-one outreach. So that's still an evergreen strategy that can't be underestimated. I think that's awesome. And I think the other thing too, I that spoke to me, Rich, what you shared, because your mindset was just being open and saying, hey, we're having the biggest challenge right now is filling a VP position. Whereas I have to say, there's a number of other people in your similar situation who could get stuck there and say, well, we just can't find good talent. We can't find good talent. We can't find good talent. And it just becomes a negative thing. Whereas you just present it as hey, this is our challenge, and we're gonna overcome it. We're gonna find that person who's gonna work in-house. So that's just, it's a subtle thing, and yet it's either believing in it's shifting from that negative limiting belief versus just addressing, yep, this is a challenge, but we're going to overcome it. Mm-hmm. And I think it gives other entrepreneurs some confidence too, just knowing, hey, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one who's having a heck of a time filling certain key positions. So just knowing that makes people feel better and be able to just move on and not be so uptight and wound up about it. So thanks for sharing that. That's I appreciate your transparency and the challenge that you're going through. So this actually transitions to the next question. I'd love to hear, if you thought about your entrepreneurial career, what was one of the biggest, most difficult challenges that you went through, and what do you think you did that worked? Anybody want to give first dibs on that?
Well, I appreciate the fact that you're not forcing me to go first this time.
Are you volunteering?
I'm no. Volunteers now. You want to got a good one? You can.
Sorry, I got it. What's that? Oh, sorry, I'll be right back.
So
I guess I'll go ahead and go first. I think the one challenge I've faced as an entrepreneur that continues to come up as a pattern, so it gets me in trouble over and over and over again, is when I find some modicum of success in what I'm working on right now, I will move on to the next shiny object, and I have this design. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are like this, where you become an entrepreneur because you like to create things and you like to solve problems, and once the problem is solved, it becomes boring, and that's what I struggle with time and time again. And so it's taking my attention off the results that the business is generating and focusing on the new thing that we're going to do next, and where when I should be spending maybe 5% of my time on that new thing and 95% focusing on the thing that's working, I will flip it. So it's like, 5% on the thing that's working and 95 on the thing that's not. And then, you know, before I realize what's happening, we're in a pickle that we got to solve for. And the pickle that we need to solve for always is like more money, more cash flow. So that's been the biggest struggle for me as an entrepreneur, is to find a balance between my desire to keep creating and my ability to create results. So I'm like a lot of entrepreneurs, I can create great results when I'm focused on the thing that needs to get done. And I can create horrible results when I'm not focused on the thing that needs to get done, or more importantly, the things that are working right now.
So what's
I'm not
working
sure
for you?
those.
What's working for you to combat that?
Well, that's a good question. I'm maybe just to open up the conversation about mental health. I'm actually it's been a problem enough for me consistently over time that I've actually decided to go see a therapist about it, to unpack like what is going on in my head that continues to allow that pattern to show up. So I can tell you what I'm working on specifically right now is carving out specific. I'm running experiments, so it's carving out a specific amount of time to work on the new shiny object thing, because that's what fills my bucket, and trying to find the minimum amount that will actually work to keep me fulfilled while working on the things that I need to be working on. So I've kind of carved off, haven't done the math, probably like 10% of my time as opposed to 90% of my time to work on it. And then we're gonna take a look at, like, is it fulfilling? Are there any other things that we can do to shift more time into the creative realm than the execution realm? And so that's
Hmm.
it's not working 100% yet. It's a work in progress.
Yeah, and that's okay. I think we all have those uh, issues or challenges, the recurring challenges that it's a constant work in progress. And I really appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, you weren't afraid to go get some help and explore what might just explore where it might be coming from, and that way you can have somebody come alongside you and be able to tackle that. I think mindset stuff is, we all battle with that, right? Having a battle of the mind kind of a thing. But I'm just curious for you. I'm totally curious. Do you have somebody who's like a designated finisher? They need to finish the stuff that you lose focus on?
We're working on that right now as well. I've always, another entrepreneur problem is you want to keep control of all the things because you can do it better than other people can do, or I can do it faster than it would take to train someone to do it. And so you never get around to training the person that needs to do the executing. So we're working on solidifying that role in our business that picks up the things that I figure out how to do and put systems and processes together to make sure that that kind of stuff just continues to get done.
Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing that. I think that's probably going to be like 70, 80% of the problem of many entrepreneurs. So, Rich, how about yourself? What's a big challenge you had to go through, and what do you think worked to help you get over it?
Well, I think if I had to look at my entire career as an entrepreneur, and that goes all the way back to when I was probably 10 or 11 years old, but as an entrepreneur, I was an extreme introvert. And that makes it very difficult, especially when you have to be the first one selling, you have to be talking, you have to be presenting in front of people. And I didn't know what to do about it other than just force myself into situations that were totally uncomfortable and deal with the emotions, and eventually over the decades, because it took time, right? Over the time that I continued to do that, the fear, the pain that I had of being in front of people and talking to people and stuff kind of dissipated. Now it's at the point where talking in front of a group of people, standing up on stage in front of a crowd, doing my thing, it's not a big deal. But that was probably one of my biggest challenges, because if you're trying to, when I was a kid, I had to knock on doors in order to cut lawns, right? I was building a lawn cutting business, and I had, dozens of lawns that I was cutting at that age. But in order to get those clients, you had to knock on doors, and that was not me. So, but you had the end game of, I need to make money. So I want to build this business. What do I got to do? You got to do things you got to put yourself outside your comfort circle in order to become successful in almost anything. And I think that goes true for most people. There's always something, some level, especially when you're building a business, whether it's, do I take the leap of faith of quitting my job? Do I, get in front of a crowd of people? Do I tell people what I'm doing? Like, there's always some level of insecurity that we have as entrepreneurs, and you just have to put yourself in those situations and get past it, because like they say, the biggest part of fear is just fear itself, right? There's nothing wrong with getting in front of people. You stumble on your words, it's no big deal. We all do it. Just put yourself out there and get more and more comfortable with things that you're not comfortable with. And that was my biggest challenge over the decades that I've been entrepreneuring and working on different projects and building different businesses.
Yeah, I love that. So just being able to, practice, really, just put yourself out there. That's big. I appreciate that. Sam, how about you? What's a big challenge you had to go through or get over?
Yeah, it's funny thinking back over it. I mean, here's what I have to say is, as an entrepreneur, everything will happen. Everything will happen. The bank will, the merchant account will freeze your money. The hotel will insist on, won't give you net 30 and you have to come up with $20,000 in 5 days. Your assistant, your best person will quit on the day of. I mean, it will all happen. So just know that. And the thing that I think I carried over from my acting career, and this is just exactly what the gentleman says, like it's almost 100% your mind game. And I am also super shy, super introverted. I live with anxiety and depression. Like it's no day in the park all the time. But understanding that in addition to being the CEO, I'm also the talent. And just like on days when I had an audition, I make sure that I've worked out, that I've eaten right, that I've gotten good sleep, that, that my mental game is as strong as it can possibly be. And really this relentless introspection, because everything that is happening in your business is 100% because of you, which on the one hand is really depressing. And on the other hand is a great opportunity, because you can, you caused it with your thinking, you can fix it. And, but only if you are willing to be excruciatingly honest with yourself and take the steps, no matter how uncomfortable they are, to move forward. That ability, I've done it too. I have absolutely kept my revenue artificially low, because I'm like Steve, I'm a kid with too many Christmas presents, right? I'm like, well, we could do this and we could do this, and oh, here, I want to make this, and look, I made this, and did I tell you I wrote a musical? And like,
yeah,
it's
and I also want to share something about you, Sam. You are such a humble woman, I gotta tell you, because when you were saying, oh yeah, I was an actress, kind of a throwaway, like, thinking maybe you just did plays in the local theater. I'm trying to find your bio, and I just Googled it, thinking maybe I'll find her bio, and I find IMDb, like the real celebrity bio page. So Samantha Bennett was known for Modern Family, Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, the original radio drama, and
right.
Body of Proof. Like this is like big time.
Yeah, I was on the Drew Carey Show. I was on Days of Our Lives. It's a lot of fun.
Drew Carey. Oh my gosh! So I just want to. I have to say that's awesome, because you've been a part of such big projects, celebritydom, right? And yet you're so authentic to share that you struggle still with. You have to manage.
You have to manage. Everybody's living with something.
Living with anxiety.
Everybody's living with something. And life keeps happening. Life keeps lifing, whether you're running a business or not. So that's so you just learn to surf and learn to, look at every problem as an amazing opportunity. It's not going to feel like it. It's going to be a present that doesn't look like a present, but every single time things go completely sideways, you have an incredible opportunity to grow yourself and grow your business. I just want to also just give a little PS to any parents out there who are stressing out because their child is interested in the performing arts. Encourage them. It's fine. First of all, it's really hard. So if they can't do it, they'll wash out. Don't worry. But everything you learn in the theater as a performer will stand you in such good stead no matter what you end up doing in your life. It's, you know, I mean, we were talking about LinkedIn earlier. I've always ignored LinkedIn because I was like, those people have jobs. I don't, what would I say to them? But then I started making videos with this production company, and now we're coming up on 1 million learners worldwide in the last year and a half.
That's exciting.
And I think it's because most business trainings are so excruciatingly bad and boring that the fact that I'm like slightly less bad and boring means I get all the pennies. So and that's something called performance energy. Like that's, you know, the ability to talk to a room, hold eye contact, be authentic, be sincere, you know.
Learning those skills.
That's all acting.
Big impact for somebody who's also trying to sell courses or something. That's 1 million learners. That's awesome. And I just think to what you shared, I think that by itself is going to encourage so many other business owners who, you know, people just fall into that comparison trap where on paper, your LinkedIn profile, your website, your, you know, whatever they're reading, you sound so accomplished where they feel like, well, I didn't make the Inc. 5000 award, or I didn't do the Ernst & Young award, and it can really start to play on their mindset. And so I just think everybody's sharing that. Thank you for doing that, by the way, because it's going to free so many people from their own mental, you know, head trash. So my last question I want to dovetail to is, what is my last question? My last question, I had it in my mind. See, I got so focused on listening to you all. Anybody remember what my last question was? Oh, what's working now? What do you think is your biggest exciting, wow, this is awesome. It's working.
Anybody? I just got back from taking 20 women on a retreat in Belize. That worked.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So if you had one word, actually, because I have another question. I lied. It's not my last question. So what's working now? One quick word sentence.
Search engine optimization.
SEO is working for you. Awesome. Steve, what's working for your business?
I think back to something Samantha said earlier, raising prices always seems to work.
Yes. Awesome. So SEO, raising prices, and Samantha took her people to Belize. That'll really kickstart things. That's awesome. All right. So my actual last question is, what are you doing now to help yourself just become a better CEO, better entrepreneur, you know, better at your game, at your craft?
I'm reading a blog lately, blog by Saster.
Oh yeah,
The SaaS space.
I love Saster.
And he's got a nice module. It goes from 1 million to 10 million and 10 million to 100 million. He's got all the different, and he's got the 0 to 100, you know, to 1 million, all that different stages. And it's a great resource of community because you got a lot of people in there that are in the same boat, answering questions of what's worked for them, what's not worked for them, and a lot of great lessons about what you should be doing at this stage and what helps you get to the next stage. So that's what I'm doing now, is just reading through the 100 lessons on the stage that we're in.
And how often are you reading the Sasser blog as part of your routine? Is that a once a day thing?
I shoot for every day, but doesn't happen. So I'd say a couple times a week.
Okay, a couple times a week. That's awesome. Sam, what are you doing to continue to get better at being a better CEO, better entrepreneur?
Yeah, I like to make sure that I'm doing something all the time that I'm pretty terrible at. Like I did for a long time, I did a lot of CrossFit and weightlifting and stuff, and I wasn't that great. I mean, I could lift heavy things, but I think especially as a leader, it's a great thing to make yourself really uncomfortable get in that beginner's mind, be in a place where you're not in charge, nobody's listening to you, nobody cares what you do, you know, and whether that's taking an improv class or learning to swim, I don't know, you know, whatever it is that, for me, singing alone. I love to sing in groups, but singing alone freaks me out. So, so I try to keep something like that on my schedule that makes me really uncomfortable.
I like that. Get out of your comfort zone. I don't know if I want to do that yet because if I think my roller coasters would be out of my comfort zone. I don't know if I want to.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not a fan of roller coasters, but but just doing something that
Yeah.
that it also, I mean, to me, it always also reminds me of where my customers are at. You know, before they're willing to invest, they're having a lot of feelings. You know, and uh, so it's good. It's helpful for me to step out of the leadership role and think about the world from a different perspective.
Right. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Steve, what are you doing today to continue to get better at your craft?
The same thing I've been doing probably for the last 15 years, and perhaps dovetails into nicely how you want to close the show. Maybe I've been in CEO peer groups for that length of time, and I've found that if with the caveat, if you're willing to show up and be vulnerable, there's no more powerful thing you can do than to bring your issues to a group of people who can see more clearly than you can in your moment of need, because nobody thinks clearly when they're super stressed out about a problem, and have likely been through whatever challenges you're going to bring to the table. That's invaluable, because there's no new obstacles that you're going to encounter as an entrepreneur that people haven't been through before. And I think the SaaStr blog is probably a good example of that as well, in a different form. It's like, here's a community of people traveling through the same journey, sharing insights. So I will always be in the CEO peer group of some form forever. So I continue to do that.
That's awesome. Yes, because I'm a firm believer, and I'm sure you are too. Isolation is truly the enemy of excellence, and it is so easy. I mean, I've done it. My first business, I wasn't isolated. I had the benefit of being surrounded by other people who were running franchise-like businesses. But my second and third business that I sold, I never even heard of peer groups. I never heard of business coaches. I didn't hear of any of that, and I was just a lonely island. And it's not a good place. So that's a great success habit. So if people want to get in touch with you, or do you have a free offer, either one, can you tell us a little bit about that? And we'll start with Steve.
Yeah. So I'm assuming we're recording this is not live, so I can give a link and then go work on the link. So go to readitfor.me. That's readitfor.me/Paramount. And would love to give you a free year of our Read It For Me book summary service, and also share some things in the background that have been working for us, especially if you're a coach or consultant. We'll share some of the playbooks that we've been working on that help us generate leads, nurture prospects, and create multiple streams of income from those folks. So readitfor.me/Paramount.
And I already signed up for that a couple weeks ago, and I've been listening to the books, and it's a great service. I love it. So I can get through so many more books than, sometimes I download a book on Audible and go, oh, it's 14 hours. So I really appreciate that it's a summary. Rich, how about yourself? How can people get in touch with you? Do you have a free offer? So tell us about it.
It's anura.io, anura.io. LinkedIn, everything's up on that site. And our free offer is we will help any company scan their traffic for free for 15 days so we can isolate how much of a problem they have. Most people don't realize that ad fraud, as it's called, will be $100 billion problem this year. So I always tell people it's not a question of if you have fraud, it's a question of how much. So we'll do a free scan and an assessment of their website and their traffic and let them know what they're actually running into.
Yeah, that's a great service. Thanks for offering that. Sam?
Yeah, you can find me at The Real Sam Bennett on everything, and the website's The Real Sam Bennett. And if you go to therealsambennett.com/real-life-planner, you get the 7-day downloadable version of the Real Life Planner, because we all have a bazillion things going on, and I'm an analog girl. I like to write things down. So it's the planner I made because I kept buying other planners, trying to find the one that I liked, and finally I just had to make it myself. And it comes with some training about how I like to think about my to-do lists and productivity and creativity.
Wow. So, I can't wait to go grab it.
It's fun.
I'll share the link, below. Thank you for sharing that. That's going to be huge to help us get focused and organized. Well, thank you. This has really been awesome. Just to be able to sit around and chat and talk about what's going on in your business. Appreciate everyone sharing, and just join us. Make sure you subscribe. Join us for the next episode and be introduced to some more entrepreneurs. And thanks again. That's a wrap.
Appreciate it. Thanks.